9 shadows moved across a vast empty canvas of white. Students and engineers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute, led by Igor Dyatlov. Their goal: conquer a formidable peak in the northern Ural Mountains, a place the Mansi called the Mountain of the Dead. They carried skis, heavy packs, and the optimism of youth, believing themselves ready for anything. But something unimaginable awaited them on Kholat Syakhl. Their journey was a Category 3 expedition, the highest difficulty for a winter trek. They planned to send a telegram home by February 12th, but the telegram never came. The wilderness that promised adventure became a source of dread. Evidence would reveal chaos and panic, a scene so bizarre it defied explanation. The official investigation closed with a vague conclusion. The hikers died from a compelling natural force. The mountain holds the answer, but it does not speak. On January 23, 1959, a group of young hikers set out into the Russian wilderness. They travelled from Ivdel to Vizhai, the last outpost before the wild. Their diaries brimmed with excitement. Yuri Yudin, the 10th member, turned back due to illness, a twist that saved his life. The remaining 9 pressed on, skiing through forests and over frozen rivers. On January 31st, they reached the highlands, entering the most difficult phase. Their final camp was pitched on the exposed slope of Kholat Syakhl. As darkness fell, the 9 hikers settled in, unaware it would be their last night. The mountain watched, silent and patient. The stage was set for a tragedy that would baffle the world. February 12th came and went with no word from Dyatlov's group. At first, families weren't worried. Delays were common. But as days passed, unease turned to panic. By February 20th, a volunteer search party was organised, soon joined by the army and police. The searchers battled the same brutal conditions, following faint ski tracks deeper into the wilderness. Hope faded with each passing day. On February 26th, a breakthrough. A pilot spotted something dark on the slope of Kholat Syakhl. The searchers found the tent, collapsed, half-buried and empty. An abandoned tent in these conditions was a death sentence. Inside, belongings were neatly arranged, a meal left uneaten. It was as if the group had fled in a sudden, desperate hurry. The searchers' dread deepened. They were no longer looking for lost hikers, but for answers to a tragedy. The only footprints around the tent belonged to the hikers themselves. The scene made no sense. The mountains offered only silence. The search had become a recovery mission. The first piece of a terrifying puzzle had been found. The sense of dread was overwhelming. The true horror was only beginning to unfold. The tent was the epicenter of the mystery. It had been slashed open from the inside, an act of pure panic. The hikers left boots, jackets and vital supplies behind. They fled into sub-zero temperatures, some barefoot, others in socks or a single boot. The only footprints led away from the tent, moving calmly toward the tree line. No signs of struggle, no other tracks, just a silent, desperate escape. Why flee in terror, only to walk calmly down a frozen slope? The contradictions were maddening. The searchers, experienced mountaineers themselves, could not imagine a scenario that would drive them to such extremes. The tent's contents were untouched. Money, documents, food. In a survival situation, these would have been essential. The evidence suggested the threat was immediate and overwhelming. The footprints told a story of order, not chaos. Each clue only deepened the mystery. The investigators were drawn into a labyrinth of the unknown. The mountain's silence, was absolute. The answers remained elusive. The footprints led searchers to a cedar tree at the forest's edge. There they found the first two bodies, Krivonishenko and Doroshenko, stripped to their underwear, hands and feet abraded, a small fire nearby. Broken branches suggested a desperate climb, perhaps to spot the tent or escape something unseen. Why undressed in such cold? Hypothermia can cause paradoxical undressing, but the evidence of the fire suggested they were lucid. 3 more bodies were found between the cedar and the tent. Dyatlov, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin. All had died of hypothermia, some with minor injuries. Their positions suggested they were trying to return to the tent. The first 5 bodies offered no clear answers, only more questions. What drove them from shelter into the deadly cold? The search for the remaining 4 would take months. The mountain's grip was unyielding. 4 hikers were still missing. The search dragged on for months, snow concealing all traces. When spring thawed the mountain, the final 4 were found in a snow den near a ravine. They were better dressed, having taken clothes from the dead. But their injuries were shocking. Crushed chests, fractured skulls, and missing eyes and tongue. The force required was immense, far beyond human strength. No external wounds matched the internal trauma. Theories of scavenging animals explained little. The discovery transformed the case from tragedy to enigma. The mountain had revealed its darkest secret, but not its meaning. Investigators proposed a slab avalanche. The tent destabilized the slope, snow collapsed, panic ensued. The hikers slashed their way out, fleeing to the tree line, leaving essentials behind. Hypothermia and poor decisions followed, but the theory had flaws. The slope was too shallow, no avalanche debris was found, and the footprints were orderly. The injuries didn't match a small avalanche's force. Why did the group split up? Why climb the cedar tree? The avalanche theory explained some details, but left many questions. The puzzle pieces refused to fit. The case remained unsolved. The mountain's silence persisted. With no satisfying answers, speculation flourished. Some believed the hikers stumbled upon a secret Soviet weapons test, parachute mines or concussive devices explaining the injuries. Witnesses reported strange orange spheres in the sky that night. The lead investigator later hinted at official pressure and classified findings. Low-level radiation on clothing fueled suspicions. Others invoked folklore, the mountain of the dead, yetis, or even extraterrestrials. No animal tracks or concrete evidence supported these theories. The most extreme ideas, aliens, secret weapons, require leaps of faith. Each theory explained some details but created new mysteries. The truth remained elusive, lost in speculation. The story drifted from tragedy to legend. Decades later, the Dyatlov Pass incident endures as a chilling mystery. Officially, a slab avalanche remains the favoured explanation, but doubts persist. The story's contradictions and unanswered questions keep it alive. The recovered photos and diaries humanize the tragedy. 9 friends set out for adventure and never returned. The mountain remains silent, its secrets buried in snow. The wind still howls across the pass, whispering a story with no ending. The Dyatlov Pass is now a modern legend, a reminder that some mysteries defy explanation. In the end, 9 lives were lost to the unknown. The mountain's silence is the only certainty.